Could I ask some of you to just share, like, in a very short way, just some kind of responses to a doubt that... See, his point was when we read Shastra, we see radical transformation. For example, someone like Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, radical transformation. I mean, his transformation was such that he went from impersonalism to the point where he wanted to change a Shastric verse because he couldn't stand the word mukti. I mean, that's radical. You know, Jagai and Madai, that's a radical transformation to go from being so harmful and inimical to being like the servant of the Vaishnavas. Or someone like, for example, Mugari the hunter, who's like killing, not just killing whole scale, not just that, killing them half, making them suffer to the point where he doesn't even want to walk on an ant. These are radical transformations. And he's saying, where is it? Where is it? Where's the ecstasy? Where's the radical, sustained transformation? Someone comes, there's a radical transformation for 6 months, 1 year, but then they kind of seem to kind of go back to where they were before. Where's a radical transformation that's sustained? Where is it? Where are the examples? So I'm just kind of pitching in a bit on his side as well. So yes, can you share some thoughts with me? I won't ask you for long comments, but if I want as many as possible, but just short bubbles of thought. How can we see this or respond to this? Okay, yes. Talk about it.
So one thing we discussed is that change can be internal, so it cannot be visible from the outside for some people, and you cannot. I mean, you can also say like the devotees, they hide their ecstasies, it's something intimate, so maybe it's not visible in that sense. That can be one argument, and also you can see that there is maybe some internal change and whether you have deeply gone into a relationship with a person. So that was in our group one of the arguments, and the other is that, for example, I saw transformation personally in individuals, so if I would speak to this person, I would have a different experience and maybe, I don't know. In that sense, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't create doubts in me because I've seen the change.
Okay, so you're saying that there may be transformation. He may not have been able to see it. It may be internal. And he just may not have encountered devotees who have achieved such levels of consciousness. But wouldn't you say, if you count, say, for example, of a percentage of conversations you have with devotees, what percentage would you say are often about struggles and difficulties and doubts compared to ecstasy and, you know, like real experience? No, I'm not asking for like prema or, you know, but like on general, are we struggling or striving? I don't know. I'm just kind of putting it out there. I'm not judging anyone here. I'm just like, I just want to get a kind of finger on the pulse. Okay, yes. Oh, you have to turn it on. Yeah.
Grass doesn't grow faster when you push or pull.
Okay, grass doesn't grow faster when you push or pull. Just on grass, someone recently said to me, they looked at me and they say, grass doesn't grow on busy roads. So he was referring to the fact that I'm losing my hair, and it must mean I'm busily engaged in devotional service. Sorry, you just reminded me of that. Sorry, that was just a side point. Okay, so grass doesn't, so you can't force it. That's your point. Yeah, but we're not talking about forcing it. But where is it? Let it grow. Why? It should grow, though, no?
It takes time.
Okay, it takes time. All right? Takes time. So he just has to wait longer. It will happen. Okay? No, I'm... These are good points. I'm being like this.
Just compare what you have been before and what you have become now.
Okay, don't see how far you have to go, but how far you still have to go, but how far have you already come? Can you look back and see that you've transformed somewhat?
Yes.
Good. All right. Yes. You can just begin shouting while the mic comes to you. Yes.
You can kind of choose how you see that. If you see a humble devotee and just think, no, it was not because of the process, it was just because of something else, then it's kind of a bad mindset. You could.
Okay, so you can, maybe you're just having a kind of cynical mindset. You can just, ascribe anything to anything, and maybe it is spiritual. Maybe they have changed, and maybe it has had an effect, but you're just projecting your own conclusion on it. Okay. Yes.
My first question would be, well, why is he still practicing?
Nothing better to do. I asked him that actually. He said, well, there's nothing else. I mean, he was just honest. He's very honest. This devotee is like incredibly honest. He just said, like, to be honest, I mean, I'm sure he's going to get Krishna Prem just because of his honesty. But he just said, I don't really, I've been chanting for 40 years. I don't really feel like, but I mean, until I get something better. So I'm just doing it, I'm just in the process. I don't think, it's not working for me. That's what he says.
Does that mean he's so close to it so far because he doubts it? So that can be quite bad. It's worse.
Yeah, but that's what he feels. Question? She was saying, is it worse because he's so close but yet so far, feeling so far? So in one sense, yes, that is. It's agonizing. Yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna. One thing that came to mind is that we can break down transformation. So there are different types of transformation, like desires, habits. So maybe, in his habits he has changed immensely because
Yes.
food he eats, people he associates with, and all the other things.
Yes, very good, very good. Okay, last one, and then.
It makes me think of Christ when he had his temptation, when he was on the Golgotha, and he had all of this all the night. Maybe he's very close, but he doesn't know it. He's just so filled with doubt, and it's maybe the last moment before the jump. I don't know, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Possible?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. I think clearly he has experienced something, as you said. Clearly he must have, otherwise there would be no kind of impetus to continue. But in conversation with him, which is how this came about, we kind of looked at 3 areas. I said to him, be peaceful, because there are stages of transformation. I said, be grateful, because there are aspects of transformation. And be hopeful, because there are triggers of transformation. And if we look at transformation in a wider way, then we may see that we're progressing much more than we may give ourselves credit for. The first thing I mentioned to him is that there are stages of transformation. All of you are familiar with this framework given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini. And essentially, they are progressive levels of involvement, engagement, and experience of the spiritual energy. Now, if you broadly look at these, then you can say the first 2 very much talk about one's transformation in their life, in which they transform into at least the external identity of being a devotee. So even from the very first moment you come into the Krishna consciousness movement, you've transformed. Because as an identity, who you associate with, the kind of aspirations that you have, the way you see life, the goals you set for yourself, all these things have already changed. Then you see the next part of kind of the devotional progression is that we go beyond just seeing spirituality as an identity. We see it that, yes, it's a social identity, but there's a process. There's actually something to do here, a science to engage with. And therefore, what happens in that stage is one's behavior, one's lifestyle, one's habits, all of that begins to change. But then beyond that, there is Krishna. We begin to realize, yes, there's a process, but there's a person here. There's a person that I'm trying to connect with, a person that I'm trying to love. And at that point, our heart changes. This heart transformation that Mahaprabhu talks about, that his spiritual master taught him, this verse. And so, who can say that they're not changing? Everyone's changing in Krishna consciousness. Because the first thing is your goals have changed. In the beginning, we're covered devotees. In other words, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, the love is there, but we have no idea. So we're just covered by Maya. Maya Mugda, Jivara Nahi, Svata Krishna Gyan. Completely confused, bewildered by Maya. The devotee has no idea who they are. But then, Jivara Kripaya Koile, Krishna Veda Puran, Vyas compiled these Vedic literatures, and the representative of Vyas created this movement. And therefore, we connect with the devotees. And then, we have transformed, because we've gone from being a covered devotee to at least a casual devotee. Even that's a transformation. Because our goals have changed. Intention has changed. And then later on, when we actually take up the process, then what happens? We go from being a casual devotee to a committed devotee. Again, transformation has taken place because now your actions have changed. And then later on, our heart changes. And we become a confidential devotee. Again, transformation. So you can see there are examples in the Bhagavatam. For example, Mugrari goes from being a covered devotee and then he gets the mercy. For example, you have someone like Prachina Barishat, who's a casual devotee, doing karma kanda, and then, through again Narad Muni's grace, he becomes more committed. For example, you have someone like Uddhav, who is in Brihashpati Shishya, who knows so much, but Krishna sends him to Braj, and he learns a more confident. So you see, throughout the Bhagavatam, there's always transformation, examples of transformation. And ultimately, one's disposition changes. So the point I was making to this devotee is, I said, what we generally measure is by this. We're looking at the ultimate and trying to judge whether we've transformed or not using that as the reference point, which is a good reference point, which is a needed reference point because we need a North Star. But also see that so many other things have happened which should give you faith and hope that if you continue going, more will happen. The second thing we discussed with this devotee is that transformation is also multifaceted because there are aspects of transformation. The ultimate transformation that we're looking for is a transformation, as I said, of the heart. And that means a heart filled with love. That's the ultimate transformation. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan dasa kori vetan more deha prema dhan. He says, if I'm devoid of prema, then I must be considered an impoverished soul. So prema is the ultimate manifestation, the change of heart that we're looking for. However, What the scriptures mention is that there are so many other subsidiary types of transformation that will occur within the life of a devotee that should encourage us and inspire us to continue on. For example, your desires will change. Prabhupada says this is the first thing. Look at what you desired 10 years ago. Look at what you desired 5 years ago. You desire completely different things. Now, whether you're actually able to live up to it and follow it, that's a different thing. But at least your desires have changed. Character. There must be aspects of your character. Yes, you may not be perfect. You may not be refined in every aspect of Vaishnav culture. Definitely there must be some evolution. Faith. He says, even if he says he has no faith, he must have faith. Otherwise, why does he wake up in the morning and do the same thing again? Implicitly, there is faith there. And we see our faith evolving. Commitment. What things you're committed, what you put energy, what you put resource into. It changes. Habits, lifestyle. The Bhagavatam says, Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayaschaye chetareta ranavidam stitam sattve prasidati. That by engagement in the devotional process, the effects of passion and ignorance should decline. And taste, yes. As one's taste should increase. The sages say to Sutta, Vayam tu na vitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yatrinvatam rasa jnanam svadu svadu pade pade. As you speak, we're tasting more and more. So as one learns to relish more and more, they will never tire of being absorbed in spiritual sound. So different devotees will experience different aspects of transformation. Some may struggle with transforming their character, but they may see that their taste for hearing Krishna Katha is steadily increasing. Or they may see that their faith is becoming stronger, but still desires, material desires sometimes are still very stubborn. So what happens is that oftentimes we don't appreciate our transformation because we only see the aspects of transformation in which we feel we are lacking. But we don't see that there are other aspects of transformation of the devotional process which have occurred and which all ultimately will lead to the awakening of prema. So I was also we were also discussing this with him, that we have to see transformation in a more wholesome way, and it's not just. Therefore I said, be grateful. If you look at all of this, who in the room can say that they haven't changed? Some aspects of this, even if they feel some are still very stagnant. All of us. And then the final thing I was sharing with him is that you should be hopeful, because if we read the Bhagavatam and if we read the different accounts within the scriptures, then what we can begin to do is identify triggers of transformation. In other words, you can begin to see what kind of things devotees did, what kind of experiences they had, what kind of situations they went through, what things happened in their life which caused them to transform. And if you study this very, very closely, then you will begin to see what are some of the triggers of transformation that have shifted the consciousness of the devotees we read about in Shastra. And if you know what those secrets are and you engage with those triggers in your own life, then you can also speed up your transformation. And so what we'll be doing over the next few days is we'll just discuss 7 triggers of transformation through stories from Shastra, which if we pay attention to very, very closely, will give us a key that we can use in our own life to trigger more transformation. So we'll talk about transformation by instruction, how a certain type of quality of hearing Harikatha can shift the consciousness in incredibly powerful ways. But one must become an expert listener. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I have noted him, referring to Srila Prabhupada, he hears very well. Because transformation by instruction is a big trigger if we learn the art. Transformation by issue. This is one we will all go through. Issues, obstacles, difficulties. How do the greatest personalities in creation utilize the issues that they encounter in their life to trigger transformation? We'll talk about transformation by impossibility. Another way to transform is by being thoroughly convinced of what not to do. The more one is thoroughly convinced of what not to do, one will be able to actually invest more of their heart into what they're meant to be doing. Transformation by increment. We're going to explore stories which talk about how we shouldn't underestimate the power of gradual, regulated, step-by-step changes. Then transformation by interaction. How do we see in Shastra that individuals begin to interact with others and their devotional accomplishment and consciousness affects them in a very, very powerful way? How do we be open to that kind of influence from the interaction with saintly people? Transformation by intensity. There are some individuals who transformed by making a special endeavor, by coming out of the comfort zone, by doing something. They say to achieve what others don't achieve, you have to be ready to do what others wouldn't do. And what do they do? What intensity do they generate that allows them to generate a different type of transformation? And then we'll talk about transformation by intrigue. And I'm not going to tell you what that one is, because it's intriguing. So the Bhagavatam is so powerful because it gives us a lot of secrets of how to effect more change within our consciousness. So I'll try over the next few days to kind of explore some of this. So just in summary, what we basically today was just an opening, but we talked about how essentially what we're trying to do in Krishna consciousness is change our inclination. And the real inclination we're trying to change is to go from that steel-framed heart to a very, very soft, a sensitive heart that can very much respond to spiritual stimuli. People sometimes have doubts about where they are on that journey and whether that transformation is actually taking place. So when doubts come and you're not sure whether you are actually transforming, remember, number one, there are stages of transformation. So be peaceful. You're on the journey. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be more deliberate and more concentrated and improve, but be peaceful. You're on the journey. It's happening. You wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't. Number two, there are aspects of transformation. So even if you feel like you've been practicing and certain things just aren't changing, remember that there are other things which are changing. And everyone grows their devotional kripa in a different way, just like plants. Some plants grow very, very gradually. And other plants, you don't see any growth for 5 years because the roots are going down. And then in the 6th year, boom, they go up. So everyone's devotional and spiritual life will grow in different ways because there are different aspects of transformation. And finally, if one becomes wise and studies very closely what are the triggers of transformation within Shastra that great devotees have utilized, then one can learn how to implement and take advantage of those within their own life. And in this way, one can actually experience that change of heart. Hare Krishna. Okay, so this was just a short introduction, just on a little bit about transformation. So I think we have 10 minutes. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments, or if there is, yes, if there is anything else you would like to explore. So one here, and then we'll go there.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It's really riling up inside. We are waiting to hear more. But the question is that sometimes isn't doubt also good for our progress?
Yes.
I'm thinking that positively. The question.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much on this because we're going to talk about this tomorrow. But yes, doubt is actually the beginning of the spiritual journey. Arjuna in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita has a doubt. It's interesting that every chapter of the Gita is a yoga. So you know what the yoga of the first chapter is? Arjuna Vishad Yoga. It means the yoga of dejection. The yoga of dejection? Yes, because dejection is also a yoga which connects you. Doubt, despair, dejection, disappointment, disillusionment. I'm seeing how many words of D I can. All of these emotions are actually the very first yoga. Because it's in that doubt, it's in that disappointment that one then begins to search for what could be beyond. And therefore, a lot of what the preacher is trying to do when they're actually trying to bring people to Krishna consciousness is to actually try to insert doubt within their students. Even when Narad Muni comes to see Vyasadeva, then he inserts the doubt in Vyasadeva as to why he may not be feeling satisfied. He says, do you feel satisfied just talking about topics of external nature? And then the doubt went in Vyasadeva's mind and realized, no, I should. So yes, even when Prabhupada formed Bhaktivedanta Institute, he said, one of your main tasks is simply to bring doubt into the world. Because people accept certain scientific theories as irrevocable fact without even questioning it. So even if you can begin to start inserting some doubt, that's very good, because that's where the journey begins. So yes, these doubts are good, but one must learn how to deal with their doubts. Doubts are good as long as you learn how to deal with them. Otherwise, doubts are also sometimes compared to demons. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Agyascha shradadhanascha shamshayatma vinashyati nayam lokostina paro nasukham samsayat manaha. Krishna says, for the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this life nor in the next. Because that's a type of doubt that hasn't been dealt with appropriately. So how do you deal with doubt? Another 3 Ds. Discuss. Go to someone who can remove your doubt, who can relieve your doubt. Number 2, delay. Some doubts, they might be in your mind, but you don't need to try to resolve everything in the moment. You just have to say, some doubts are there, but let me just put it there and let it not impede my journey forward. And then what you find is as you go forward, you come back and look for that doubt and it's disappeared. So some doubts need to be discussed and they disappear. Some doubts just need to be delayed and in the course of the process, they disappear. And some doubts just need to be downplayed. Because what we sometimes do is we make a small doubt bigger than it needs to be. You know, like if you're in a prasadam queue and a devotee doesn't give you, gives you 2 puris instead of 3 or something, then you're like, I don't know about the devotees, I mean, the devotees, he just gave me 2 puris, I really doubt their character now. I don't know if I should be here, it's like some doubts. It's like, it's okay. Just downplay it. It doesn't have to become such a big thing, It doesn't need to shake your whole... So doubts are good as long as we know the science of how to deal with doubts. Otherwise, Krishna says, Nayam lokos dinaparo nasukam. Because for some people, the modus operandi is just doubt, doubt, doubt. They just doubt everything. It's like trying to drive a car with your foot on the brake. You can't, it's just... The best that doubting can do is save you from doing the wrong thing. That's the best that doubting alone can do. The very best it can do is save you from doing the wrong thing. But it can never take you to the right thing in and of itself. Therefore, faith and doubt have to go together. Doubt your doubts. Is that okay? There was a question here. Yes.
Thank you so much for this intriguing lecture. So I have to come back to the beginning when you asked us why bad habits are so easy to form. And then you answered that because we have the inclination for that. And to me that felt kind of like it's hard because it's hard. So I was asking why do we have that inclination? Thank you.
So it's very interesting. Krishna spends 100 of the 700 verses in the Gita talking about the 3 modes of nature. The 3 modes of nature are an incredible model because they help us to understand so much about our mentality and so much about why we do what we do in this world. And so the point I was making is that we have the choice to decide what modes we want to be influenced by. And when you're influenced by a certain configuration of the modes, you will gravitate towards those modes. You see, the modes are everywhere outside of you, and the modes are also inside of you. Therefore, Krishna says the modes are all pervading. Therefore, if you have passion and ignorance inside of you as your predominant modes, then you will naturally gravitate towards habits and lifestyles in the mode of passion and ignorance. And therefore, and it works the other way around as well. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada often uses this terminology, associate with the mode of goodness. So if you associate with the mode of goodness, you cultivate that in different ways, and that goodness begins to pervade your, then you'll see. And we all see that, right? Like, now you walk by McDonald's and you're just like, Hare Krishna. Whereas 10 years ago, or whenever it was, there might have been some, because, and it's effortless. Because your modes have changed. It comes to a point where a devotee doesn't want to sleep beyond 6 a.m. in the morning. It just becomes like, oh my God, my whole day is ruined. Like, I just don't want to do it. It comes to that point. So it's hard because it's hard. In one sense, that's true, because we've associated with those modes. But the point is, it's very scientific, because if you then analyze, why has Krishna spent so much time talking about the modes? Because if you associate with those modes, you'll see the change. It's very scientific. Does that help? Okay. Any last question, if anyone has? Okay, one last one and then we'll stop there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your visualization of the triggers. I was thinking about this analogy you gave, that if we have like a hill and pour water, then it flows to that point. And then I was thinking like, if we're in the first 4 stages of Bhakti, actually it's like we are going upwards, and then Nishta it's like the top, you see everything, and then it just flows. And most of us are of course in the beginning of the stages of Bhakti. So I wanted to ask, but then you told us like this in the relationship to the modes of material nature. But then I was thinking, actually, this process of Bhakti, you're already like associating with the pure goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And how to get these like 2 streams together with the modes and with the stages of Bhakti.
So I'm not quite clear. So you're saying that the modes are affecting us, and now we're engaged in Bhakti, which is a transcendental process. So how does that work? Like, I'm not quite sure your question.
First I was drawing like a hill, and I thought like, the beginning is Shraddha, and then...
Yeah, it's uphill, and then it becomes easier.
Could you put like the modes into where it is, like on which part of the hill we are?
Okay. All right, I understand. So when Srila Prabhupada came to America, then he wrote this beautiful poem, Markine Bhagavat Dharma, and in that he quoted these 5 famous verses of the Bhagavatam. And they begin, Shrinvatam Sakata Krishna, first one must hear. And then the second verse tells us that once you regularly hear, then eventually the effects of passion and ignorance decline. So basically, bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti are really the stages where one is kind of clearing out passion and ignorance. But it's very essential in those stages to understand how to perform devotional service in goodness. Because what the Bhagavatam says is that while in bhajana kriya and trying to overcome anartha nivritti, if one falls into the trap of doing devotional service, but devotional service in the mode of ignorance or passion, then it won't have the desired outcome where one then comes through to the other side. And so ideally what should happen is that through association with devotees, sadhu sangha, shraddha and then sadhu sangha, then one should learn the techniques, the mindsets, the habits of how to perform devotional service in goodness. And as one performs bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, devotional service in the mode of goodness, then the effect of passion and ignorance should decline. And by nishta one should be stitam sattve prasidati. Stitam means like situated. Then one is situated in goodness. And then the Bhagavatam says, Evam prasanna manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. That one's mind, thus enlivened, then gains scientific experience of the Supreme Person. So like that. So it's a matter of clearing out the rajas and tamas. Like Prabhupada comes and he sees that's basically where everyone is. In the Makine Bhagavat Dharma he writes, Rajastama guna era sabaya chan vasudeva kata ruchi nahese prasan. He says, I'm looking out and most of the people here are absorbed in the material modes of passion and ignorance. They have no taste for the message of Vasudeva. And so, those modes are changed as we engage in the devotional practice, but devotional service in the mode of goodness. Therefore, Kapila Dev gives that knowledge in the third canto. All right, so thank you all very, very much. Tomorrow we will begin discussing some of these triggers. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Everything is okay. You have everything on your food and rest. That was very challenging, no?
Hare Krishna, His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj ki.
Sorry.
Just a short announcement. If you enjoyed this class, and I'm sure all of you did, and you'd like to hear more from Maharaj, Maharaj has brought some books with him, and in the next room, the books will be available. Also, he has 3 books with him, and also including Gita Life, which is like a summary study of Bhagavad Gita with acronyms. And these books will be available from 7:30 onwards. Maharaj will be there, or books can be bought at 7:30 in that room. And also tomorrow morning, the books will also be available. So please take the opportunity and get some books from Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.